So that was how the EU voted. But what should we make of this result? Why did the Euro-Skeptics make gains? What does it really mean when you hear the phrase, Europe has taken a shift to the far right? What does it mean? Well, first things first, the Euro-Skeptic parties did make gains, but centrist parties seem to have held on to power. Like we just told you, the centrists are the ones who control the EU Parliament right now. They're the group backing the current European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen. She might become the European Commission President again. She's still the leading candidate, but getting the presidency will be harder this time.
Is holding. But it is also true that the extremes on the left and on the right have gained support. And this is why the result comes with great responsibility for the parties in the centre.
Von der Leyen says the centre is holding, but the extremes have gained support. She's worried about the rise of the Euro-Skeptics, parties who are primarily concerned about their own countries. These are the far-right parties that have made gains. Why are more Europeans putting their faith in the Euro-Skeptic parties now? Because of all the troubles that they faced in the last few years. Let's take the war in Ukraine, for example. It led to a cost of living crisis across the world. Europe was particularly affected, especially when the supply of cheap gas from Russia ended. And this caused inflation to surge and brought the European economy to its knees. People in these countries needed help from their governments, but what did they see? Their elected leaders were spending billions to arm Ukraine while they suffered. The European leaders said propping up Ukraine was for the greater good, that it would be a shield against Russian expansion. But that argument does not make someone's hunger go away. The Euro-Skeptics offered a different approach. Take care of the locals first, they said. Ukraine's problem was not their problem. And it seems that this approach found more takers. That isn't the only reason for the rise of the right, though. There's also the issue of migration. Migrants have been making their way to Europe for years now. Some are genuine asylum seekers, but others are driven by economic considerations. And this has angered some Europeans, especially those who are struggling economically. They feel that the migrants will take away their jobs and make an already difficult situation worse. The Euro-Skeptic parties have capitalized on this. They all promised to reduce immigration, buy tougher border checks. They promised to deport illegal immigrants. And this has appealed to many in Europe, leading to more votes for the Euro-Skeptics.
There are problems, such as high prices and illegal migration, which haven't been addressed by the political system that has been governing during the last decades. That's why people turn to the right.
There's also another reason why the Euro-Skeptics won votes. Their disregard for the environment, and you heard that correctly, their disregard. Because over the past few years, European farmers have been suffering due to green regulation. Europe has been looking to address climate change, and for that, it wanted to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Agriculture leads to a lot of emissions, so the EU has been putting pressure on farmers to go green by reducing their subsidies. This led to farmer protests across Europe earlier this year. Tractors were seen in every major European capital. The farmers felt suffocated by the green regulation, which they blamed on the green parties that campaigned on an environmental plank. The Euro-Skeptics took advantage of this anger. They promised to do away with the excessive green regulation. This may hurt the world in the long run, but it would provide relief to the European farmers. And this strategy also worked in the favor of the Euro-Skeptic parties, at the expense of the Greens.
I find it disappointing that the Greens performed so poorly. They are the only party that actually does something sensible, but they are being boycotted and sabotaged over and over again by citizens because everyone wants to protect the environment, but nobody at his expense.
Economics, migration, and green regulations. This trifecta dealt a blow to the centrists. And it gave the Euro-Skeptics a big boost. If things do not change, the far right may just win the next elections outright.
Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison Lagrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost.